The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, folks, and welcome to today's Google Classroom webinar. This is Karen Mazzo talking, and Ann Mordecai is sitting next to me.
Hi.
And Jacqueline Karabinas is on your screen, and she will be delivering the webinar today for demonstrated success. We've decided to open up this webinar to all of our Performance Plus schools and our consortium schools because we felt like the webinar was very, very relevant and that there would be a lot of interest in it. And we're excited to offer it today. We will certainly be offering more webinars like Jacqueline's next year. And you should consider visiting our site at demonstratedsuccess.com to see some of the work that we're doing and what's available for next year in terms of our consortium. We are holding another consortium, Demonstrated Success Consortium next year, and our focus will be, this year we focused on 21st century learning practices, and we will continue that focus next year. We're moving into instructional practices, so best instructional practices around competency education and standards-based education in math and ELA and intervention and STEAM. So that's what we're going to be focusing on next year for our consortium, and of course, always student data. So consider checking us out and thinking about whether we can support you in your schools next year. We would love to set up a meeting with anybody that's on the call to talk about what your needs are for next year and whether we can help you out to meet those goals. And now I'm going to hand it over to Jacqueline. Do you want me to point out the pieces of the control panel, or do you want to go ahead and do that?
Sure. I'll just direct people to the chat box if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jacqueline Karabinas, and I'm excited to join you today to help you see how you might start to use Google Classroom either this year or next year with your students. It was really helpful for me to see when you signed up for the webinar what everyone was looking for today, even just getting to know the basics, that kind of thing. So thank you for sharing that with me. That's helpful for me as we dive in today. We will be using the chat box on the right-hand side. You'll see that there are triangles that will sort of open up those boxes. So in order to open up the box, you're going to want to click on that triangle so it points down and opens up the chat box. And so if you would take a moment to just type maybe your first name or perhaps your grade level, where you're from, just so we can kind of get to know who's who today. So go ahead and take a moment to find your chat box on the right and just introduce yourself to the group.
Anne's logged in as an attendee, and she only has a question box.
I don't have a chat box.
So I'm wondering if maybe folks don't have a chat box, or
okay.
People
are they responding?
No, I don't see anyone responding yet. That's okay.
We could also use the questions box.
Sure. Take a look. Does everyone have a questions box?
Here, everyone's putting it in questions. So I see hi, Jacqueline from Megan and Susan and Anne and Jacques and Andrea. Is it Jack?
It looks like Jack, yeah.
I'm going to Paris next month, actually. Maybe that's
so
what's
it's Jacques.
Susan, Andrea, oh, Paul. Okay, good. Lots of people here. Thank you, everyone, for finding the question box and posting there. Hi, Megan. Great to see you. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Today, really my goals are to, certainly give you the nuts and bolts of this tool and think about the tool itself, but even broader than that is to really think about how this can change the student experience. It's really important that we make choices to use a digital tool based on teaching and learning, not just because we think we're supposed to be using a certain kind of technology, or we hear everyone's using something and so we think we are supposed to. It should really serve a purpose. So we'll have some opportunities to reflect today on why we want to use this tool, to share some ideas, get to know this tool, and have some hands-on practice right within Google Classroom. Hopefully you joined the class. I see people popping in to the class, and it looks like a few more people just joined. So just to get started, to get our thinking going, go. Looks like I have frozen.
You might want to take the webcam off. It might help.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Help with that. Go. Great.
Did that help?
It did. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Perfect. Okay, so who can use Google Classroom? Students, teachers, co-teachers, support personnel. We'll talk about getting started today, how to get people in your class. You can have multiple teachers in one class. You can set up a number of classes, lots of different things that you can try to do. When we're thinking of what we're doing with it, people maybe have heard of this tool but haven't really thought at all about what we can do. You can think of it as a new way of opening access to learning. It can really serve a lot of purposes that you might have with your students, everything from announcements to differentiation, streamlining collaboration, including more polls and surveys with your students, having an opportunity to have more on-the-go communication, a seamless workflow, lots of opportunities for timely and specific feedback, which we know is very important in student growth and learning. And there's opportunities for guardian communication if you choose to use that setting. When would you use a tool like this? If you want to accomplish something in a more efficient way, you are thinking you want to transform an activity or some learning activities in your classroom to be more efficient. If you'd like to begin sharing assignments that students can complete on their own pace or on their own time, as well as in class. But also, this is about providing a different learning experience. We want to change the way that the workflow looks for students. We don't just want to digitize our own classroom. And so when you start to dig into a tool like this, it's likely to change the flow of your classroom. It should change the flow, and it might push you out of your comfort zone a bit, but that's okay, because all change is where growth happens. I mean, you can use Google Classroom in all different times of the day. Lots of people like to start the class right away with it if they have access to devices. Some people only use it during class. Some people use it, at home, a variety. Just kind of depends on your personality and the structure of your class and the access your students have. There are apps for tablets and phones. Right now, I'm looking at students joining on my phone, and I'm looking at people are sending messages and commenting on posts, so I'm seeing that on my phone while I'm working with you here on my laptop. And why would we use a tool like this? Because we need to think and work differently for kids who live in a different world than we did. And we always need to ask why we're doing something and see if our tools support our reasoning. So that just kind of sets our tone for the day before we dive into our class to get our thinking going. And so now we're going to head into our classroom. And so I'm going to jump over and show you what it looks like from my end. It will be very similar from your end. And I'm going to bring myself back to my home screen here. And while I'm here, I'm just going to take a quick look at the question box to see if anyone has posted anything that they need so far. I do have a few messages popping up from people who are having a hard time accessing. So Karen, would it be okay if I forward that to you?
Hi, I was on mute.
Oh, that's okay.
I don't see the questions in GoToWebinar. Do you
Are
want?
they in the Google Class?
No, somebody emailed me. I was just going to forward it on to you, but
Okay.
I just replied. She was having some troubles with the code.
Okay, but certainly forward away, and we will
Okay.
handle it.
Thank you. Okay. So once you're in the classroom, once you create your classes, they will show up across your screen as a teacher, as like you can see here. You'll see a lot of the classes that I've made at different schools and places over the years. These ones in particular are not with students in this account. But any class you create kind of shows up like note cards almost across the screen. And so I'm going to head into the classroom here. And here you see something very similar in your screen that you can see on my screen. And we have a few people, there's a few people noting here. Have we started? Nothing but a screensaver. Karen, I'm wondering if you could check in with some of these participants that are on my screen that are just noting that they aren't sure if we've started yet. Maybe just look and see if they are in the webinar. You can see that I've already posted a number of things just to give you an idea of the feel of what a classroom sort of in action will look like. I'm going to walk you through how to create some of these things. The first thing I really want to do, though, is to take you to this tab that's the About tab. So across the top, once you're in your classroom, we have three main tabs. Stream, which is, you can think of like your Facebooky mainstream, Students, the participants in the class, and then About. The About tab is the best place to sort of hold all of your resources, to hold any files that you want to have access for students, maybe year-round or during the semester, just things students will access frequently. So in this About tab, you will see the slides that I'm jumping back and forth between today. You'll see an outline for today's webinar. And I made this resource Padlet for you where I've added some resources that will help you as you continue investigating how you might use this down the line. And so that's something that we'll refer to as well. So I'm going to click here on the webinar outline, and you can also do that, or you can look on my screen. And I'd like you to keep this question in mind as we work together today. How can we increase efficiency, access, and organization using digital tools so students can have a more flexible, authentic, and personal learning experience? It sounds really lofty. Of course, a lot of our goals sound that way for students, remembering that, many of you will be taking your very first steps with integrating a digital tool like Google Classroom. Maybe some of you have been using other tools for a while, and this will just add to your tool belt. But here you can take a look through sort of what's in my mind for today for what we'll dive into, all the different things we can try to do. So right now what I'm going to do is go back. I'm going to give you a quick tour of Google Classroom, and I'm going to do it fast because you will likely forget some of the pieces and need to go back and click around and see. So there are only a few places to look, and as we practice, you will gain more comfort with where things are, how to locate things, that type of thing. And then we'll dig in and do some practicing. So a lot of the kinds of things that we know about technology will apply here. We're looking for things to click on. That's what I always tell people. Don't be afraid to click. Look for icons to click on. Look for tabs or words to click on. Look for little icons. You won't have this edit like I do because I created this, but look for different places to click. And when you try this new tool on your own, give yourself a chance to click around and just gain comfort with what is out here. This is our main stream here. In our main stream, you can see that I have posted, and I've posted some different kinds of questions, surveys, and assignment that we'll dig into in just a moment, and some different opportunities for us to think about how we might use this tool. You notice here on the left that I have it set that students can currently only comment. So right now you are considered the students in this class. And this is a great way to incorporate gradual release model, teaching this new tech tool to your students. We all know that our students, if given the free reign of a tool like this, will jump in and start posting, hey, what's up? Yo, what's going on? They'll do that. And I tend to let kids do that. I can turn that on and off. I can change it that only teachers can post or comment. I can change it that students can only comment, or I can change that students can post and comment. So free reign of posting. So typically I tell teachers to start here. Teachers can post or comment. And then once you go through the modeling and incorporate conversations about digital citizenship in your classroom and work with students, then you can slowly release this to them. Students can only comment. And eventually you may or may not get there that students can post and comment. It just depends on your goals. So right now I'll keep you at students can comment. Down the left here, you'll also see upcoming, things that are due tomorrow, something that's due today. If I click on view all, it will list all of the assignments. So again, we're just clicking to kind of get a feel for the lay of the land here. As I scroll over here, I see topics. Topics are like tags. So when I'm posting an announcement or I'm posting an assignment, a resource, a video, anything that I'm posting to keep myself organized, I want to add a topic to that. In this way, I can click on a topic and it filters everything down. So example would be is if you teach multiple subjects, or you teach a subject with multiple sub names that you want people to be able to access, you would tag them here. So if I click on Classroom Basics, any post that I have tagged, essentially, Classroom Basics will pop up. So if you teach geometry and you wanted to make sure you tagged any posts that had to do with constructing angles, you could make your own topic of geometry constructing angles. And so students could click on that and it would filter everything down to just be able to see those. I did label one reflection. So another thing is if you incorporate lots of reflection, you might have that in here and have them labeled reflection, that students could easily just click on reflection and find all of those things as well. I'm going to head back to our main screen here. I'm going to go right over to the student tab. When I click on the student tab, it's going to bring up all of the students in your class. You have all signed up today as teachers. A couple of you signed up, maybe chose students, because I can see the invite guardians. That's fine. You definitely do not want to do that in your school domain, so your school G Suite, your GAFE account, because your admin will just have to go in and change that. It's not a big deal. But certainly your students will be in here as just students. That's the only option that they will have. So when I click on an individual student's name under that Students tab, I can see at a glance all of their assignments, if something has been turned in or not turned in yet. Just a quick at a glance. Students can also see that for themselves by class. And in here is also where I could invite guardians to get email summaries of what is missing, what's happening with that student. So I can click here. I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like. A guardian email summary will give a weekly summary, student work, what's due, what's upcoming. I don't know a lot of teachers that use this because a lot of teachers tend to have platforms already at their schools that do something similar. It's really important, like I've said before, that you have a clear purpose for using that tool. It can be very frustrating for both parents and students if they're getting information from Google Classroom and information from whatever other platforms with grades or things like that, that your school might use. So definitely only use this if it's something that is missing or lacking already in the tools that you have for your school. So Michael's asking what the class code is. And you can probably, if you got an email today. Okay.
I sent it to him on the chat.
Okay.
On the questions.
I just thought I looked up. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe it's a good time to ask if anybody has any questions so far.
Yeah. How are we doing so far?
If you guys want to type your questions in, we're eyeballing the questions box right now. Okay.
Still taking it all in. That's fine.
Seems like folks are okay.
Okay, I'm going to head back to my classes, and to do that, see the three little bars in the top left? I'm going to click on that, and here I can see all of my classes. I can go right to my calendar. I'm going to click here on my Google Classroom webinar class, and I'll scroll down. So on the bottom right, you can see that there's a plus sign, and this plus is how you create a post, and they keep it simple. So we have an announcement post, an assignment, a question, or a reuse. Reuse just means you've already designed a question, an assignment, a post, or an announcement, something like that in another class in Google Classroom, and you don't want to copy and paste, or you don't want to have to, just sort of rebuild the whole thing. You would be able to click on reuse post, and it will ask you to go fetch that question from another class. Not going to focus too much on that one for time's sake today, but I will dive in here to these other choices. Create announcement is exactly what it sounds like. It doesn't have a due date. It will tell you the class. You just create an announcement. Don't forget to wear green tomorrow. Bring your permission slip, please. Remember to connect with your partner on your presentation for next week, that kind of thing. You can send a post, an announcement, an assignment, anything to all students, or you can select which students to send it to. This, for me, was a huge game changer in this tool. It was something that was lacking for quite some time, but this allows for really streamlined differentiation. So you can create assignments and only assign them to certain students, and that way you don't have to assign multiple assignments for different groups in the class and they get confused in the stream, which assignment goes to which student, that kind of thing. So really helpful if you only have an announcement or an assignment for a group or even an individual student. You could do your announcement. And that was what I did today.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you make a group and with one click assign it?
Say that one more time.
Like if you have a group of students that are working together, Can you form them into a group? Is there a way to just click once and have it?
So there's a few workarounds for that. So one way to do it is to make an assignment for just that group, like I had here. So I might create an assignment and only assign it to certain students.
Oh, okay.
And then only those students will see the resources, the links, the conversation, and everything that happens within that assignment. Okay. Yeah, that's one way to do it. There are a few other creative ways that I've seen people posting on social media about ways they've created groups for lengthier assignments. Sometimes teachers even just create whole other classes and name it based on their group.
So I have a couple other questions here.
Great.
Michael says, entered it, but it said it wasn't valid. We'll try.
He's likely his personal account, his school account. He needs to make a personal account.
So Michael, did you hear Jacqueline? So maybe write back and let us know if you're using your school account or your personal account. It would have to be a personal account. And then Susan had a question. What grade levels have you used this with?
I have used it with grades 3 and up, but I do know of teachers who have used it in K1, 2. Obviously, you're going to do very different age-appropriate things, but teachers have used it in K1, 2 to post video or picture for image study or have a place where students can share their work. Me personally, I feel like 3rd grade is the sweet spot to introduce a tool like this, but that doesn't mean that if you have ideas for K1, 2 that it's not possible. It absolutely is. Any other questions popping up here? Yes, I agree, Susan. It really is. And there's, I'll add a website to our resource list. There is a teacher that I'm trying to remember her name right now. Her blog is all about GAFE for littles. So she works with K1, and so she blogs frequently about the kinds of things that she does with K1-2s. So it's pretty interesting. Okay. Any other questions so far, or should I jump back in? I'll jump back in.
Going, yep, no new questions yet.
Okay. So what I wanted to give you all a chance to do was experience an assignment from the student point of view. And I'd like to give you some time to do this so that you can sort of see what the options are. I'll show you from my end once you finish what it looks like. Here on the screen, you can see this assignment that I've created on Classroom Basics. I called it Classroom Practice. So to create this, I went to the plus, create assignment, and from here, I chose that everyone would see it. It says what class I'm in. If I want to assign this to multiple classes, I can automatically click on those. I'll just keep it here for now. And here is where I name the assignment something specific and I give the instructions. Keep your instructions short, sweet, and simple. I highly recommend numbering them. Lengthier instructions written in paragraph form tend to get skipped over. And students don't read the whole thing. So I think keeping it as short and sweet, numbered as possible is really helpful. From here then, I was able to attach a file from my computer. I'm able to attach right from Google Drive. I'm able to attach a YouTube video. Or I'm able to link to an external place, such as a Padlet or a website, something else externally. So this is how I created this assignment. Once I chose it and I added everything on there that I wanted for the assignment, I clicked Assign. And here you can see the directions and all of the attached resources. When you're designing an assignment, you have a number of choices for the way students can access a file. The beauty of using things in Google Drive is that students can make their own copies, they can edit the same file, they can edit their own file, lots of different ways that students can access. And you'll see that in this video, I just linked a video. This AlphaBox WordStorm that I linked is editable by all of you. I did that today for our training purposes. Things get a little messy when you have a lot of people in one document, but we'll do it today just so you can kind of see what it would look like for a small group to be in one document. This reflection that's linked here is set that each of you will get your own copy. It automatically makes a copy for you. It puts your name on it and it puts it in a folder in my drive with the name of this assignment. And I'll show you that when you're finished as well. And then this infographic is just viewable. So it's 3:42. I'm going to give you 8 minutes. This video is pretty short. And so I'm going to give you 8 minutes to kind of work through this assignment as if you were a student, following the directions and accessing the documents as needed. If you have a question, feel free to write it right here under the assignment. Or if you're more comfortable using the question in the GoToWebinar, you can do that as well. So we'll come back together in about 7-8 minutes at 3:50, and I'll be available for questions.
Jacqueline,
Yes.
we are wondering where the I am wondering is. Oh, it says I wonder if
Where?
on her screen, but it doesn't say. We're not
Oh,
seeing.
I don't have that.
So Anne is on as a student, and I'm on as a screen watcher, and we're not seeing where it says I'm wondering.
It's the third one down.
Nope, I have Classroom 101, Alpha Box WordStorm, and Google Classroom Essential Infographic. That's it.
Does she need to be given that assignment or something?
No, when it's attached, it's for everyone that's in the class.
I signed
Is
up.
there anyone?
Does that matter?
Yeah. Nope.
No.
Oh,
Is there anyone else that has that?
Let's see.
You know what? I'm also a student in my own class, so let me skip over there and see what's going on here. Interesting. I think I know what the problem is. So, teachable moment for all of you. It is likely that when I created this assignment, that I created it in my personal account versus the account that the assignment is in, and that is likely the problem. So I will fix that.
Yep.
Let's refresh.
Okay, let's see. I have to click open first to access it. The I wonder doc.
oh.
Megan is saying had to click open first to access
Open.
it. Open what?
Yeah, open.
Oh, the assignment on the top right.
Oh, open. Oh. I clicked open.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, add.
Yep. And you might see on my screen now how that sort of expands the full assignment. My guess is that, yep, because there were so many things attached to the assignment that we're not seeing the whole thing. So up here in the top right, open assignment takes this assignment only to this full screen. And now when I click on it, yours will look just like this, and see how it added my name on it? It will do the same thing for you. Are you having success?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you. Megan and Jacqueline.
Thank you, Megan.
Hi,
Oh.
Jacqueline. Okay. Anne did
It's not
hers.
personal.
She did her assignment.
Great.
She went and clicked turn in
And I get a message.
that said class not found. And then it said look for it on classes or double check your link.
Oh, you know what? It switched me to another account.
You know what? That was my next question, is that if you are in the browser in multiple accounts in the same browser, it's gonna hit you back and forth. So you're just gonna want a new tab altogether. And actually, this is a really good little tip and trick for all of you, is that if you're someone that works in multiple Google accounts frequently, with your students, you're going to always want to use your school account. But say you created something in a personal account and you need to be able to go between. If you have a Mac, you're lucky because you have the people on the top where you can become different people by just clicking on that. But if you go to File, New Incognito Window, and start a new incognito window, you can log in on another account, and then much more easily you can go between, and it won't kick you off from one account to the next. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so. I gotta figure that out.
Yeah, so if you go to an incognito window, in this window up here, I'm logged in with one account. And then in this new window, I can sign into a different account, and that will help me make sure that I keep them separate. Okay, it's a little bit in. I think some people still need a little bit more time, but I'm going to jump in while you're all continuing to work. And it's really actually nice when these things pop up, because so much of technology is really just problem solving, clicking, thinking, sort of communicating what possibilities are. So good teachable moments here. I'm going to go back into my stream, and I'm looking at assignments. Go back. I need to go back to where I'm a teacher. Here we go. So when I'm looking at an assignment from my end as the teacher, I can see 9 done, 9 not done. Quick at a glance who completed it. When I think about the times where I had to, have a student job or myself collect papers and sort them and count to see who's missing and all of the time that takes, this to me is another game changer. I can quickly see who's completed, who's not at a glance. I can also click right on them and I'll be able to see. So I'm going to click on, 6, another one just popped in. I'm going to click on done so you can see what this looks like. If there are any English teachers out there or any teachers that teach Writer's Workshop where students are producing a lot of writing, this is one of those tools that will really make your access to student writing so much smoother. No longer will you have to worry about students sending you files, sharing, emailing you, getting the wrong version, all of that kind of thing. All of them are right here. They're listed right here. I can see everybody's pieces and I can click on them right from within here as well. So I can click on Anne's and see her reflections. I can click on this drop down for all done or not done to sort through. So I can see who's not finished and maybe click on there to see if they've made any progress. Maybe they are just stuck. Maybe they need a little bit of a nudge. But something that's really helpful is thinking about, in terms of feedback, creating this feedback loop. A lot of times students will create something, they write something, they turn it in, and that's it. With the way this is set up, I have the opportunity to jump in, and I hope it's okay, I'm going to use yours. I have the opportunity to jump in and add feedback in the moment. So I can do this whether a student has turned it in or not, which is really helpful in terms of helping students to redirect them. So one quick and easy way to help Anne or to just give her some feedback is to highlight. And when I highlight, do you see how that little comment bubble popped out on the right? This is going to add a sticky note right on this document. And I can add a comment. This is smart thinking. What will you try first? This is where you can redirect, any kind of feedback that you would give a student if they were sitting right next to you. You can attach that here, and students will be able to see that. Think in terms of if students submit, 10 pages of a piece of writing they're working on, you can easily, narrow it down, find one spot to give them some positive feedback, and then you can add another comment maybe to give them some feedback to direct them to thinking about, maybe making a revision or whatever it is that you're working on. I'm going to go back into the classroom and just talk about the grading for a moment. Something really important to keep in mind is that Google Classroom is not meant to be an LMS, a learning management system. It's not designed to be a place where work is created, graded, and then grades flow from there. It's really created to be a home base where you can be really flexible and innovative with the kinds of things that you post, with the time frames that you allow students to finish things in. With the flexibility for turning in work and turning it back in with revisions and then resubmitting. So for example, Anne is done. So let's say I select Anne's name, but I want to send it back to her. So I can select Anne and I can click return and I can leave her a private comment. And I didn't grade this yet because I want you to think of the 3 following things or consider this and give some feedback. That way the feedback is, as somewhere I read, the feedback is sort of in the moment and it's working with a live document versus, working with it after the opportunity has already passed. So I can return it, the student can revise and resubmit. Something else important for you to know is that when students click turn in, they lose editing rights. So it's like they've turned it in and they can't go back in and make any more changes until I click return and send it back to the student. Over here where I can assign point values, I can decide if it's ungraded. Me personally, in the elementary and middle setting where I've used this the most, I would make things either ungraded or I would do on a 4-point scale, or whatever scale is common to your school. I've seen teachers do a simple 0 and 1, do a 1 point, just to say finished, not finished, if it's something that isn't, it's not summative or it's not going into that final total. So something to consider about, sort of the grading practices, that because you have so many opportunities to be able to see student work, to be able to add comments to student work and have conversations with students about their work within the documents beforehand, you really want to make use of those, almost before you assign a total point value if it's going to be something that's going towards a grade. So I'm going to pause here for a moment and click over to questions and see how we're doing it. Susan says she's able to turn it in. That's great. I see it, Susan.
Yeah, I don't see any more questions.
Nope, I don't see any either.
If we missed them, just resend them, please. I don't think we did, though.
Nope, I don't see any. Okay, good. All right. I'm going to head back over here into the classroom, and I'm going to scroll down and take a look at the Create Assignment button again. I know we just looked at this, but one thing that I do want to point out is that when you're adding something to an assignment, you have a lot of flexibility with what you add, with the exception of videos. It can only be a YouTube link. Unless you have a video uploaded to your Google Drive, then you can add the video that way. But when you do add a document from your Google Drive, if it's something that you're going to want students to have their own copy to type on, you have to create that first. So think about if you were creating a paper assignment for students, you would create it or find it in the book, and then you would go and photocopy it. That's your process, right? Well, in Google Classroom, you would first create it in your Drive. So I'm going to get out of here for a moment. This is my little app bar up here. When I click on that 3x3 grid, I can get into my Google Drive. You'll want to create it here. So if you want students to put their drafts for a writing piece or a reflection or math argument, whatever it is that they're doing, a slideshow they're going to have their own. Anything that students will have their own copy, you're going to want to create it first. And you might title it, we'll just say Persuasive Essay. And now it's in my Drive labeled Persuasive Essay. So now when I'm in Google Classroom and I'm creating this assignment, I can pull this from my drive. So this is coming after all of the lessons we've done in persuasive essay, all of the exercises, activities. Now we're at the point where we're writing our drafts. I want student drafts to be able to show up on my screen just like your reflections did, so I can easily access them. So when I add this assignment here, I'll click on Drive. It will pull things up from my drive. There's the persuasive essay. I click Add. Now, here's the important part. Right now it says students can only view this file. You would only leave this if it were something like instructions or an image, something that students don't need to be able to edit. I want to change this to make a copy for each student. Again, think how much time this saves you. You don't have to walk all the way down to the copier and get stopped 10 times before coming back to have this prepared. So make a copy for each student. Once I click Assign, it will show up right in their feed at the very top. And now you'll see that when I click on this, I'll see everybody's names, and as they begin their document, I can click right on it and I can see their progress on that document. And you can do this with any kind, it doesn't have to be a Google Doc. You can do it with a Google Sheet. You can do it with Google Slides, with Google Drawings. So any of those apps that you're using right in there.
Hi, Jacqueline, we have 2 new questions.
Great, thank you.
Susan has asked, so it looks like YouTube videos show up without the questionable comments and suggested videos, correct?
They do, except I have a trick. So I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure we get through everything, but I will show you all a YouTube trick that will be very exciting to you if you're ever worried about that, Susan. So the trick for you is here. I'm going to actually go back and open up that YouTube video that we watched earlier. Oops. Sorry, let's get this open in YouTube. Okay, so take a look. Oh, stop. Pause. Thank you. So take a look on the top in the URL, the address for this video. Here's a little trick that I always use with videos, no matter what, because with YouTube, you just never know. Even if your domain has lots of settings in place, it just makes me feel better. Right up next to the YouTube, do you see it says www. If I click here and highlight and type the word quiet over it, look what happens. It took the video and it put it in its own window, blocking everything out.
That's cool.
It's really cool. And you can take this link, this quiet YouTube link that you just made, and you can put that right in Classroom. So in Classroom, this video is going to pop up, as we've seen and heard. It's going to pop up right in Classroom, but with quiet, it's going to help block out anything that you're worried about showing up. YouTube has come a long way with security, and it's because of its integration with G Suite. So we don't have to worry about that too much anymore, Susan.
Okay, and there was another question. Are there any specific student information systems that integrate well with this product as a third-party app or a fully integrated tool?
Right, there are not, and that's because of that reasoning of wanting to keep it from being, like an LMS, and keeping it more for that sort of home base of feedback. I'm going to jump over back to our outline to see where we've been. So we had an opportunity to practice. We were able to turn in an assignment. I was able to show you what it looks like to add a comment to a document, able to return an assignment to a student for further revisions. So what I'd like to do, and we're doing pretty well with time, is I'd like to come back into the classroom and just give a couple of ideas for different, back over to my slides, and I'll give a few ideas for where to get started, thinking about differentiating, thinking about what we talked about in the beginning, which is, making decisions to use this tool based on your goals, based on making the student experience different. because we don't want to just digitize old practices. If we only use a tool like this to post assignments, we haven't really changed anything. We have maybe we have other tools that are doing that, or maybe you don't. Maybe that's where you start. But you want to think in terms of redefining the flow of your classroom. You always want to keep, when you're making these decisions, keep pedagogy first. Just diving into any tool because it's exciting, problems will arise. And so it's really important to think about your goals and think about how you want to scaffold that for your students. You know them best. I've had classes that were able to jump in and be able to share and post and collaborate very quickly. I had other classes where I had to take away that right and reintroduce it multiple times in the year because that's just what they needed. Keep in mind that you're thinking about this process and collaboration, not necessarily product. So it won't be all about posting projects, constantly creating projects. We want to give students opportunities to think in terms of collaboration and having the opportunities to share thinking and share online in ways that they are already doing outside of school. You may or may not be familiar with something called the SAMR model. The SAMR model is a good way to start thinking. It's not perfect, no model is. It's a good way to start thinking about integration of technology. Anything from substituting one thing for another. For example, just a paper worksheet to a digital worksheet. That's just a substitution, really. It doesn't change the experience for the student. And thinking in terms of, a one-way communication for a teacher-student, that's something we already have. These scenarios are the kinds of things that if this is very new to you, you may very well start with a substitution kind of activity, only posting assignment, uploading a study guide for students to access. It's not a bad thing at all, especially if that is your comfort zone. Just know that you're going to want to move to the next steps in order to redefine the student experience. So then as you move through, thinking in terms of Google Classroom, you might start to post due dates that students can access. Thinking in terms of augmented, this is now where students might be able to access it on their phone. They might get a notification on their phone that something's due. If they have a long bus ride, they can check out the links or a video on the way home. They can easily access digital copies of things, where before maybe they had to drop in early and say, oh, do you have a copy of that? Do you have a copy of that study guide again? Now you can just say it's in Google Classroom, you can access it. Thinking in terms of moving through the model, now we're moving into the modify stage. This would be where the learning experience really starts to change. Our students, are they accessing and collaborating on files in and out of class if they have that access? Are you able to, post questions or polls at the beginning of the week and tell students at some point this week, make sure you answer the poll or answer the question. It's a really good way for you to get an idea of students' working vocabulary before a unit begins, or just to get student feedback, really just kind of open the lines of communication in that classroom community that you've been working so hard on. And finally, thinking in terms of when you're redefining learning, you have activities where there is a feedback loop, whether it's between students and you, or just between you and the students, or the students themselves. Students are beginning to post around video. Maybe you post a video and students have a conversation about that video right in the feed. Now there's this open access to conversation and feedback. And, a lot of teachers say, well, I don't want to be accessible at night. And I tell them, then don't be accessible at night. You can really lay that groundwork with your students. I used to say to them, I posted an assignment tonight. I'm not really available, but maybe some of you could be there to field questions. They love that. Or I might say, I'll check in this evening really quick for a few minutes to see who has any questions. And it's not like it was every night. It would just be, certain times during some assignments where I knew that they might just need a few minutes of my time that evening. That would save a lot of headache maybe for them and for all of us the next day. Any questions popping up so far?
Yeah, we have a few questions.
Okay.
Where would a parent be able to communicate in this classroom format?
Sure. So the parent wouldn't be able to join the class and comment. You would be able to to invite that guardian to get email summaries and updates. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking for, or if you're looking for a parent to be able to access what's in the class specifically. It would have to be through the email updates for guardians.
Okay.
So hopefully I answered that.
And yeah, ask again if that's not what you were looking for. And the other question is, what's the best way to put my class audiobooks, which I've digitized and are stored on my Google Drive, online for students to have access?
That is amazing. Good for you for digitizing all of those. There are a number of ways. Me personally, I would probably put them in folders in Google Drive, and then I would put the folder itself right in the About tab in my classroom. So let's see, Teresa, I think this is your question. I'm wondering what grade level you work with. My guess is elementary, so just kind of let us know. But I'll tell you that in this About tab, where you have Add Class Materials, you would click here, and you might say nonfiction titles, if that's what you named your folder, and I'll click on the drive, and then you would just select the folder or the files of the books that you wanted to put there. And I'm just going to select something random right now just to add it here. And I would add those here. So that's one way you could do it, and then you could just start to list them. If you have a lot of them, trying to think of some other ways that maybe a Padlet. I don't know if you're familiar with Padlet. That is where I put our list of resources today that you can kind of take with you. A Padlet, it's a separate tool. It's an external link. It's a totally separate tool. But in Padlet, you could add the link to that recording, and it would pop up right in here. And then you could put the link to the Padlet right in your About tab. So I know that was a lot of steps, Teresa, but definitely don't hesitate to email me, and I can talk you through that, because that's a fun kind of challenge. So don't hesitate to email me, and I'll help you process that one a little bit.
Thank you. It's 4:13. I'd like to keep us on schedule here.
Thank you.
So I
really feel like the last thing that we should just talk about is think about a next step, because it's really important to walk away from a learning experience saying, I'm going to try this. You certainly do not have to. You don't have to do this reflection right here. It looks like a number of you have thinking about this, but when you do walk away today, if you have a moment to do this reflection, to create your first step in what you will try, I highly recommend it. It could be, attending more PD, or it could be exploring some of the resources to see what people are doing. If you're looking for a place to start and you just can't find one, I highly recommend doing image study. Post a picture and ask students to add their comments over the week about what they notice in the photo, and that will give you a chance to sort of see how students access that, see what kind of questions pop up for how students will use it. It's a great way to begin. And then before we leave today, I just want to direct you again to, in the About tab, this Classroom Resource Padlet. This is external from Google Classroom. So if you open that and save that link, that will bring you to a collection of resources that's going to help you with your next steps. Our webinar outline is there. Alice Keeler, the guru of all things G Suite and Google Classroom, her ideas are there. Her blog is really helpful if you're wondering, how do you use this with math, or how do you use it with little ones? All kinds of things to find there. Lots of videos and getting started. So definitely sort of a takeaway resource link for you to use. So I'll leave you with that, thinking about the time. And if you have follow-up questions or something popped into mind, please just shoot me an email and I'll help you figure it out.
Well, we do have a couple questions. So if you want to listen to the answer to these questions, please stay on. If you're ready to go, then that we understand totally, because it was scheduled for an hour. And I think, Jacqueline, can you stay on for a few minutes?
I definitely can.
Okay. So one of the questions, so thank you for coming if you're leaving, and I will just go through these questions. Can you change the order of assignments in the stream?
So there's two ways. I mean, the answer is no, but yes. So the best way for me to describe that, I'm going to go into my class here. One thing you can do is you can move a post to the top. So right here, I'm in an assignment or in a post. See these three little dots? I'm going to click on those. Okay. And my options are edit, delete, copy, or move to top. This is already at the top. So you can move things to the top in that way. That's one way that you can reorder things. The best way, if you're looking to really filter down what you're looking for, is to make sure that every time you post something, you tag it with a topic. That helps. It's a much more efficient way of sort of narrowing down the kinds of things that you're looking for. So no, you can't just click and drag and reorder them. That would be really nice. But I would say move things to the top or add a topic is the best way to do that.
Okay, thank you. Here's another one. We're looking at systems that allow multiple layers of collaboration. This product seems fun and innovative, but it isn't really complete. We are trying to simplify the teacher's experience, focusing on tools that students will use in the real world while lessening the platform systems that our staff would be required to learn. I guess that's not a question, that's a comment.
Yeah.
So
I'll comment on it only because this is actually, I get this question a lot when I work with schools. And I pose the question a lot about, do we want to think in terms of tools or do we want to think in terms of tech fluency? Because tools will change all the time. And we want to start building tools for teachers and students skills that they will know to be able to use. Things like, clicking, looking for icons, reorganizing, the way to access things. So really looking about skill fluency for technology versus tool specific fluency, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you. Somebody's asked about a document to show that we've taken this great presentation, and that will be emailed to you after this is over, automatically emailed. And a lot of people say thank you. And then somebody says, could you send me the slides from this webinar? I have taken notes, couldn't access my own screen, but could follow Jacqueline's screen.
Sure. So I'll send an email to all participants to follow up if that's okay with the links to the link to the Padlet, and that will have the slides and everything you need on there if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Any more questions?
I'm looking for a few. I feel like we've gotten most of them, but like I said, if anyone needs to email me, go for it.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Lots of people. Great. Thank you. Yes, I think this was great. And we've got all the emails here. So thank you, Jacqueline. This was really informative and helpful. I've wanted to dive into Google Classroom for a long time and just haven't done it. So now I have a starting point.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Well, it's great to work with you all today.
All right. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.